station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Let's go. This is your radio, your station.
GGR, Good Governance Radio. Good Governance Radio.
In the words of Thomas Jefferson, the true act of governance is embedded in total honesty towards the interests of humanity. In his own words, execute your duty and humanity will give you credit even when you failed. Welcome back. This is the GGR, and this morning we're cruising on Speak Out 09130236602 is the number you can interact or be part of this program. You can also go straight and log in ggr.com.ng or via our YouTube channel, Good Governance Radio. Some time ago, and just before we move on, you must have seen a man who is now in an angelic confirmation of his autumbarism, talking about Tony Ayodele. He walked in while we were on that break.
Well, sorry to have come in a little bit late. Excuse me. The traffic jam in Abuja now is because it's something else, and what we will have to do, you just have to be part of it. And I believe the traffic management authority of FCT will have to look into some of this route, and most especially what you found out that caused this traffic jam. People are dropping passengers, picking passengers, and they say, well, it's okay. Well, it's another beautiful Monday. I believe that our listeners and viewers will enjoy the cruise at this hour.
All right, enjoyment of the cruise with facts is what we engage you this morning with. In 1996 till almost 2001, the distribution, the impact, the menace of fake drugs, expired drug abuse, and so many things flooded Nigeria to a fatal rate. When I mean fatal rate, people were dying, people were getting complications because of the drugs they took, even at the hospitals, because the hospitals are getting their supply from the same circulation where we have fake and adulterated products. Likewise, the cosmetics, people were getting skin cancer because of what they are rubbing on the body. And then we have the president, then General Olusegun Obasanjo, who began to weep for the situation. And he was looking for a character that will fix this problem and this challenge. He wasn't just looking for professionalism, he was looking for integrity. Then General Muhammad Buhari wasn't the president, but like we have always saluted him as the man of integrity. He said, hey, Uncle Shege, I worked with a woman in the Petroleum Trust Fund project who proved to Nigerians that sincerity is still an available commodity. She represented integrity, she represented professionalism. Bring her on board. And in 2001, the president then, Olusegun Obasanjo, engaged Professor Dora Nkemdelim Akunyili as the driving wheel director general of NAFDAC. And there's no way we can exaggerate that this woman did and represented the interest of Nigerians. She started a hero, finished her course a hero, even when death came, and up till now, we have not deleted her name from that green book where only the righteous shall be found. And talking about the World Drug Day, that was what took me to that history. Do we still have people like Dora who are fighting this fight clearly? The World Drug Day was on 23rd, if I'm not mistaken.
26th
of, so I beg your pardon.
International day against drug abuse.
drug abuse.
Illicit trafficking.
Do you think we're fighting enough? Because I brought that history because we know how she laid down her life. Even when those boys opted to kill her rather than repenting, she said she was not going to give up. She didn't give up until she brought sanity. Do we still have people like Dora now?
Well, Tony, I would say we do. Maybe not just recently that we think we probably, Nigeria could say that we probably have someone that is fighting drugs, and probably maybe not from NAFDAC, another agency talking about the NDLEA. Since the appointment of Buba Marwa as the current chairman of the agency, talking about the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, there seems to be a whole lot of achievements in that particular agency. We've read of a number of high-profile cases of drug-related cases that has actually been achieved by the NDLEA, particularly with substances such as cocaine and every other thing. We've heard of almost on weekly basis, whereby most of these drug lords have been nabbed at the entry point into the country with at a street price running to billions of naira. So a lot of Nigerians have been asking, is it that the previous heads of the NDLEA has not been working? We've even read of stories, even in Abuja here, whereby in brothels, in bar, where a lot of people are disguised to sell drugs, and in recent past these people have been nabbed. Even the logistics people, some of them delivers drugs at will, and candies have actually been drug-less candies have been discovered. That's something that we've never heard of. So I think in recent past there has been a tremendous efforts by the NDLEA to curb the spread of hard drugs in Nigeria. So kudos should be given to Buba Marwa for actually bringing so much should I say innovation that has actually enabled the
but Chris, please. Yes, I have been following the new trend of the new NDLEA boss, but we discovered that there are more of at the airports tracking traffickers who are pushing these drugs or receiving them from other countries. Do they have any grassroots effort to curb this, hack or hijack the youth from consuming the drugs? Tony, we push that question to you.
Well, you see, the issue of drug is a kind of international networking. It's not only in Nigeria, it's all over the world. But that I believe that it has become something that it has affected a lot of our youth. And it has made a lot of our youth to lose focus of their future. Look at the case of Chidima, the University of Unilag.
Don't go there. We will come there.
I'm just trying to.
We will come there. We will come there.
You see, because some of these things are actually the government of Federal Republic of Nigeria has been making an effort. Like you make reference to Dora and other heads of NAFDAC. But the truth is, how are these things coming into the country? Is it that if you see something, that is when you can have it to take? But how do they manage these drugs, these cannabis, fake drugs, tramadol, all these enhancement drugs? How do they pass through our borders? How do they pass through our custom officers? So until we check the influx of these drugs into the country, that is when we can curtail it. You can see somebody coming to the country wrapping drugs, cocaine inside what they call it, a compressor, concealing it inside
of a refrigerator.
So many areas people have just trying to see how they can bring this thing in. And mind you, it's a syndicate program. It's a syndicate syndication,
Chris, like Tony just brought up now. We have seen custom officers going to rice market in Kano, Abi, seizing bags of foreign imported rice. Like Tony just brought up now, why are we not seeing these men going into the market, the drug markets, to extract and uproot tramadols and other banned items and materials? Why are we concentrating on rice and all that while we have poisons in the market killing our youths and even adults?
Well, Tony, I think Ebere, I beg your pardon. I think we have different agencies. I think for NDLEA, they're going after the hard drugs, and NAFDAC is a regulatory agencies that should go. I remember you talked, passionately, about Dora. I think I read a report then where Dora actually, as courageous as she was, took the bold step of penetrating the Onitsha market, where she was shot.
Yes,
it was a scarf that actually saved her.
Then the bullet eventually killed the bus driver behind
her at Onitsha drug market. So that was, a determined kind of person that knows what she was doing, and what she was so determined to make sure that she actually wiped out the menace of fake drugs in Nigeria. But then the current woman that is there, I've forgotten her name, Sonno Jiri, she's an aged woman too. So I don't know how the zeal. Dora was actually dealing with her people. She's from Anambra.
Yes, she's and from she's from Nanka.
With due respect to the indigents of that particular state, we know that that's a hotbed of fake drugs. The Onitsha drug market has been known to they can replicate and reproduce anything fake when it's come to drugs.
Yeah.
So it takes a determined person to take the bull by the horn and go after these people. It's not as if the NDLEA and NAFDAC do not know where these people, where most of these fake drugs are coming out. A few weeks ago, a container loaded with tramadol was seized at a port in Rivers State, and somehow. How are we convinced that those drugs would not somehow, find their way into,
exactly
where, because
like Mr. President said to the Niger Delta Avengers, hold your peace, Chris, hold your peace. Mr. Tony, while you were beginning, at the beginning of your comment, you took us to Lagos. Now, when we talk about drug abuse, people they talk of cocaine. I get money to buy cocaine. They talk of heroin. I don't smoke. I don't even know how they look like. Now we saw a 21-year-old girl stabbing a full-fledged 50-year-old gigantic billionaire to death. Now that girl, in her confession, which is still subject to investigation, said her parents separated while she was just 2 or 3. We also saw her, we discussed that before you came, smoking and discharging smoke like a chimney. Now, at her age, if I see that girl before this incident outside her terrain, outside her zone, there was no way I would trace such heinous crime to her. Now, that act in Lagos, can we say that the parents are doing enough to separate their children or protect their children from these substances? Because even though her parents are separated, she is living with an adult. She is living with an auntie. She said her father has been paying her school fees, but we don't know whether she's living directly under the supervision of the father.
Well, Ebele, let me just let's take it one step further. Who are the main culprits of this drug abuse?
Youth.
Yes. Why? Because one, parents have not been having enough time to check their words. 2, peer groups. You find out that some of these children, when they get to university, even in secondary school, you find out that when you find a child taking some substance in your presence, you will not take note of, say, what are you taking? Because even some parents, they don't even know some of these drugs, some of these children know some of drugs, something that intoxicate, that enhance them. They know it more than their parents. And secondly, you find out that peer groups is very important, and societal ego. Because you find out that some of these young girls, what happened? Because this thing enhance their sexual prowess with man, or the man also want to do this thing, they go into the chemist to get some drugs introduced to them by friends. And what are the roles of the parents in checking this abuse of drugs by the youth? You find out that, secondly, you find out that if you go to any pharmacist in advanced country, if you don't have a prescription signed, they can't sell drug for you on the counter. So there are a lot of ways that you find out that people have access, these youth have access. Parental care is not there, peer groups is there, and access to it is there. So what is very important now is how the government to regulate. It's not just going to the airport, bringing this. There are other drugs that are also in the society that the youth are. How do they get to know this thing?
What of
Ebele.
to support you? What of ordinary codeine?
Ebele, allow me if you allow me.
Yes.
A friend of mine actually posted, some of the substances that youths now take, that are, substances that could be tagged as, abuse substances, drugs related. And I just want to read a few of them. It will shock you, Ebere. Lipton soaked with regal gin, tramadol, codeine, dry pawpaw leaves, hypo in Lacasara, tom-tom in Lacasara, spirogyra, Refnol, gum, 10 days urine, methylated spirit in codeine, methylated spirit in coke, dry plantain leaves, cannabis, that one is even popular one, bone tires, bones bitumen, soak use menstruation pads.
No, those
that get high.
And the last time I checked, Tony, did I hear hypo now?
Yes.
In Lacasera, a combination of these two substances can tear down the intestine. The last time I checked, they said a young man added one of those cooking sauces. I think let's not destroy their brand here. I don't want to call the name, into Lacasera, and it began to eat away the anus of the person who consumed it.
Bede, you see, where all these things you are mentioning, how do they get to know these things are very effective?
Because
the experiment.
That is what I'm saying. That is why we have to. Education is enlightenment is very, very crucial in our schools, especially from primary schools. There's a time they were trying to create a drug abuse club in some primary schools. So they're going up and that. Ask me now, is it still existing? Drug clubs.
The reason is because when we ran effective public school system, it was easy for parents and even the government to appreciate these ideas. But now we have dominantly private school system, and each proprietor or proprietress is trying to prove to you that such does not exist in my school. So they blanket whatever character. Even when we have these incidences in their school, they will do everything possible to cover it up. So it doesn't affect the number of
but that's why I said that where we have a good structure in place, where this thing can be monitored. What is very important is some of these things we are mentioning that are enhancement. Government don't look into that area. They are only looking at the common ones, the popular ones that they are just after. But what can we do, or what can the government do? One, it starts from the parents. If you find your son or your daughter acting funny at home, you find that the parents will just look side. And mind you, some of these children are rich parents' children and son that are engaged. It's because if your parents is selling akara How much do you think? Where do you think the child want to have money to go and buy this stuff?
To an extent, Tony.
But
It has
the peer
nothing to
groups-
do. They are the ones taking these. Didn't you see on Rai Popo here now?
Yes,
No,
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 so
and,
you don't need any money.
burnt tire.
You
no,
don't
see,
need
let
any
me tell
money
you.
to buy all
You
of
know,
this one.
you
These
see-
are something that is readily available. You can easily get it on the
Let-
street.
let me give you.
We're not talking about
I-
the hard drugs that you need dollars and huge amount of money to buy.
Chris, for somebody to tell you this thing is good, somebody that has have the money. You see, if your mother is taking you to school with 500 and 1,000 naira, and you know you are going to trek, you see, this thing is more than, we are just looking at it as if this purple leaf is very cheap or it's very easy to get. Children that are into these drugs are children of influential parents in the society, and peer groups now coming. I was hearing it a commentary when I was driving down to the studio. A woman was talking that a parent gives her daughter any amount she requested for as a university student, and he asked, "Why are you giving her money?" He said, "No, I don't want her to be exposed." And he said, "Do you know that giving her this large sum of money, you are exposing her? Because some less privileged children that are in school will make her friends and will take her money to lure her into many things."
All right. Thank you. Let's hold it there.
Well, let's appreciate the president for launching war against drug abuse. So now let's see. Remember when he started war against indiscipline?
war against drug abuse,
WAGDA.
and let's hope it will be sustained. Okay, moving on now today within the week. Remember, we are still expecting your contribution. You can call us, you can send your message, you can go to ggr.com.ng. You can also see us live and direct on our YouTube, Good Governance Radio. We welcome your opinion on that drug discussion, welcome your opinion on the newspaper review, and we're moving on now because within the week, the former president, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, Matu Okikiolu Aremu, since you want to hear all the name, the Baba himself that said he had learned everything in life apart from God. So he went back to study theology. That is one of his characteristics, making us laugh. Okay, he said in his recent mentorship program to the youth, one of the greatest problems in Nigeria is population. And I agree with him. I agree with him totally. As a matter of fact, that statement caught my attention because I was already doing an article on the Nigerian population. Now, let's look at these statistics. As we speak now, Nigeria is in deficit of 17 million houses. That is to say, until we have 17 million houses in place, we will continue to have more people sleeping under the bridges, sleeping under the flyovers, sleeping under incomplete buildings, sleeping in other public places, and posing security dangers to the society. As we speak now, we consume 6.7 million metric tons of rice monthly. Only rice. I didn't say yam, I didn't say beans, only rice. And at a time like this, Boko Haram and bandits have sent many farmers out of the farm, and Nigeria will soon face food insecurity. Now, in the same country of ours, the recommendation for patient-doctor ratio, according to the World Health Organization, is 1 doctor to 600 patients, meaning that more than 600 patients shouldn't be under the care of 1 doctor. But as we speak now in Nigeria, we have 1 to 5,000. That is to say, 1 medical doctor in Nigeria is bugged, stressed by attending to 5,000 patients as against that. Now, every year in education, we have over 1.5 million people writing JAMB, and our high institutions can only accommodate 410,000 students. Still in the same education, every year we produce over 50,000 graduates. There are no industries and there are no strategic places for them to work. I'm saying this in line with Mr. President, who also admitted that unemployment is the case. Now, why are we having these challenges? Yet in Nigeria, we are still celebrating people who gave birth to quadruplets, octuplets, 6 children, 10 children, 12 children, because it's an achievement in Nigeria. People are marrying more and acquiring more baby mamas. And we have skyrocketed to well over 200 million people in this our country, Nigeria. With these statistics of deficiency in line with this population, where do you think we are heading to, gentlemen? Chris?
Well, Ebere, it's just a recurring decimal, so to say, something that has been coming up time and again and again and again when it's come to the kind of population explosion that we are facing, that we'll see continue to face in this country. In fact, the 3 other countries that have been experiencing this kind of population explosion in the last couple of years has been India, Indonesia, Pakistan, closely followed by Nigeria. So we're not competing with, the likes of Singapore in terms of development, in terms of innovation. Now look at Pakistan, that you have nothing, no control over their population explosion. Those are the countries that, we seem to be at par with when it comes to population explosion. And I think it's just what our society encourages. Just look at me. I just got married and I have a son that is 14 years old. Even when my son, my child was 1 year old, the pressure that has been coming from both my wife, family, and my family, when are we having the next one? When is this next one coming? This boy started walking, I started crawling. When is the next one coming? So the society seems to, promote this, is when you have a dozen of children.
Yeah, your father's son.
That you now, start rubbing shoulders and they will now start apportioning, your little property. This one will take this one will take this. But is this how it's supposed to be? When you go to the developed world,
so do you agree?
Some people just get married, they, in fact, with no plan of having children or whatsoever.
You want your kids
some have one,
to bundle you
some
for
have
deliverance.
2, and we just come and we just make do with that. But in Nigeria, you must have 5, 6, 12. I remember this House of a Representative member, is it from Samfara or wherever is from, that brought the number, all the wives to the chambers, and was bragging of the number of children that he has from his 3 wives and everything. That is the
Chris,
pride for an average Nigerian.
Please don't let us.
So with what Obasa just said, let me just round up with what Obasa just said. I think it's that he has made a salient point. If case is not taken, the little resources that we have, that we're still, trying to,
Chris, let us not just take
make a whole lot.
Wait, Otumbatoni Ayodele,
let us.
do you agree with Baba?
You
That
see,
this is a problem.
It is.
You see, all over the world, we have about 7.9 billion population. We are not talking about only now. You see, at times I think
All over the world of 200 and something countries. Oh,
yes, we have China, India, they has the highest population.
yes,
More than us, about 1.something billion.
yes.
But
But
we
they have
have
industries.
No, wait.
Okay.
We are not talking about development now. We are talking about reducing population in Nigeria.
Okay.
That is what the president is talking about. We should reduce the population. One, this is natural cause. It is natural. It's God ordained replication of life. It's a go eat and multiply. One, wait. No, wait. I'm trying to bring out a point here.
Okay.
You see, we are an African, and there is a way we think about having children. There was a time they brought family planning about reducing childbearing by parents, this and that. But in African context, if you are married and you don't have a child for the first 3 years of your marriage, Even you, the man and the wife, you are not happy. Okay? By the time you start to have one, they'll start telling you, you have overstayed, what is happening. And if you are blessed by whether triplets or twins, it is God, not by your making. But the only thing that I believe we can do, or the government should do, or we should think from the out of the box, is how to encourage young ones. You see, you cannot take away family pressure when it comes to
Mr. Tony, I don't want us to make this a human interest topic. Let's incorporate this into governance. In China, I'm coming. In China, let's think outside the box.
See, when you bring, first of all, you have to bring human angle to it.
Okay.
When you bring human angle to an institution, especially something that is beyond your control,
it is not beyond their control. No.
You see, having childbearing in marriage in Africa in life is something that is of necessity. It is a must when you are married. Now, too, when you have this, how does the government knows that once we have the growing children that are coming up, we have the kind of marriage situation we have in the country, we have different kind of culture in Nigeria. What the government needs to do is planning. Because you know that when last they do censor, these are the things that our government has failed.
No, let me bring you.
Let's talk about records.
Mr. T, let me connect, because the way this thing now is like you blessed a marriage last week, or you attended one child dedication, and maybe the people had triplets and you're still celebrating with them. Let me put this thing this way, and I'm going to be very, very specific. If you go to the north, majorly, you will see 2 years, 3 years, a year, 4, they call them their marginaries, right?
Of course.
Somebody will give birth to innocent children, dump them on the street, give them a plastic plate, and they would start running around, roaming the street, begging for food. And it's been proven over the years that these are the kind of children that became vulnerable or become vulnerable to Boko Haram, because they are not under the supervision or care or tutelage of their parents. No, I am bringing this to governance, that this is not negotiable. China is already overpopulated, and they are saying if you give birth to more than one Peking, he say you are going to pay. In other words, Chinese government will ask you, how do you hope to take care of this kid, build a house for him or her? We are now talking like, okay, we are faced with insecurity, we are faced with bandits, we are faced with a lot of social crisis, and we are saying that there are so many children unaccounted for in Nigeria. Of course. And you cannot be fighting for insecurity, fighting against insecurity, if you have not taken these things into consideration. I just told us about the doctors' ratio now. If you go to the general hospitals and teaching hospitals and federal medical centers, you will see women weeping and wailing on the floor because there are no beds. Of course. Should we now say that children is of the Lord and we will keep having maternal death and infant mortality? Does it make sense?
See, I will definitely, all the point that you're making, we should leave this, the family position African interest or the law's interest. We leave the law's interest out of this. The point I want to make, please, just the point I want to make is this. When you go to health centers, I've had the opportunity of going for immunization or with my wife to the health centers a couple of times. The government have made adequate provision for family planning. In fact, the day I sat with one of the nurses that explained to me the different, family planning packages, you'll be amazed that it's something that you can conveniently and comfortably undergo, and without even having to, because there has been this notion, there has been this representation that okay, some women, if you do this, you will not be able to give birth again. If you do this, you grow fat and all of that. But there is a suitable family planning for every woman that will not have any negative effects on the life of a woman. Governments have put in places. Why are we not taking advantage of this?
Otumba is itching to tell you why Africans are not taking advantage of it.
You are talking about family planning to the elite. You are giving those messages. You are passing those kind of messages to people like you that luckily you are able to see the four corners of the university and have the taste of what it takes. Go to the rural areas. How many of them can you convince? You see, the problem we are talking about is that we just come up with a policy and said it's only few. I know some of well-known graduates. They are saying that no, my wife will not take family planning.
Of course.
So you see, there are times that we will have to.
And there is to support you in this. There is also a religious dimension to that.
So when you are talking about the issue of reducing population, it's not something that any policy, especially in African context. Let me just say in African context. In advanced countries, they have their own ways of life. They have their own. But in African context, how do you think you can tell a village, a woman living in rural areas, that believes that it is the number of children you have makes the family, your in-laws, to appreciate you, and you think of taking them to farm? How do you want to take to a family that they don't even know what is called family planning, even how to make use of it? So when you look at some indices of the issue of controlling the population, it goes beyond just coming out to say, go and take this, it will reduce population, go and do this. The problem is, we know that this is a natural cause. The government needs to plan. The government needs to know that every day people are getting married. The government knows that this life, we are even chicken, when they are having their own chicks now, the chicken, when they are having their base, you see some of them having 7, 8. It's Lord.
We are not created that way.
You are talking about animals.
Animals too are also the whole human.
In
their own world.
No,
God created them everything to go and reproduce.
Okay, now.
So don't let us just limit. So I'm just giving us an example. But wait. What we need to hammer on or look into very well is government doing the needful, planning for its citizens.
See, yes, they are already planning. And we are saying now,
take this message to the rural areas and make them
it.
understand that this thing is real, what they need. Because you are talking about child mortality, you are talking about but you have to look at early marriages. This is another issue that the government has to educate the citizen on all these areas. So it's not a matter of just coming to say the population. The government needs to enlighten its public, its citizen, on some certain issues.
You see, the reality of this discussion is that whether we like it or not, already we are struggling with infrastructural development.
Of course.
And we're now saying that a facility, look at the Nigerian prisons, we have 55,000 human beings. The Suleja prison was built to accommodate only 800 inmates. But when you go there, you will see over 3,000. And so many other prisons in Nigeria. You can imagine the transmissions of HIV, transmissions of hepatitis, transmissions of over dangerous diseases. So these things are impacts of overpopulation. So we are saying that in as much as the government is planning, but the reality here now is that if we must fight insecurity in Nigeria, if we must fight hunger in Nigeria, if we must fight poor health care system in Nigeria, this breeding children like a change is not of the Lord, though.
Of course,
he said if a man must build a house, that he should sit down and count his blocks. You can be part of this conversation. Don't forget 091-3023-6602 ggr.com.ng. Good governance on YouTube. We are still cruising on Speak Out on GGR. Chris is still here. Tony is still making case for us in his capacity, and that will not stop attacking him. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Computer systems are offline.
This is the Good Governance Radio. GGR. Stay with us. Good Governance Radio.
All right, you're still on to Good Governance Radio, GGR. Thank you for staying with us. And we are gradually getting to the tail end of the program, but then we can't just leave without delving into the politics of Nigeria. Yes, Europe, the European league season is on break. Then at this point, it's been signing of players moving from one club to the other. Nigerian political season is definitely ongoing. The build up to 2023 election, there has been defection, and of course, elections are coming up in the various few states across the country. Notably, the Anambra election seems to be the one that is very, very close to us. It's coming up much later in the year. Tony, there has been primaries conducted by APC. I think Abga did theirs successfully. Soludo emerged, and PDP have not yet done theirs.
They did. They have parallels.
Convention that produces two different, and Let's quickly talk about the APC that took place. The APC primary that took place yesterday, of course, was headed by the Ogun State Governor, Dapo Abiodun, and which incidentally or coincidentally, Andy Uba, former senator of the Federal Republic, emerged as the flag bearer. But then there's been a lot of reaction back and forth coming from the Minister of Employment, Grace Ngige, whom we know to be, a strong man of Anambra politics and an APC, strong man too. And of course, Kingsley Moghalu is the right-hand man of Ngige. Those are the people that kick against, the emergence of Anduba. They said there has not been any election. The Anduba should not be recognized. What are you projecting? What are you seeing all this leading to? Will we have court cases upon court cases, and whereby, eventually if one Anduba, gets to be on the ballots, come election day, that's, all of this will be decided in court?
Internal democracy is done in our parties, in our political parties in Nigeria. So this has been a normal occurrence since 1999. When you want to start having an election, you have some of these crises in the parties, factions coming up there and then. But I think it's normal to them. I believe that at the end of the day, they will come to the round table and settle it. But if you look at what happened in PDP dissolved the state ESCO. But you find out at the end of the day, they have to paralyze a convention. Some factions are saying that no, they have been having the ESCO of the party in Anambra State. Now it has come for them to come up with primaries. You now say you dissolve. While in ABGA, they have two factional chairman also talking about it. They have the right to conduct. So in when it comes to issue of internal democracy, is still a problem that our parties needs to work on.
Ebele, what do you make of this? Is getting messy, and
it wasn't
so
just
factions.
about APC. Tony Nwoye withdrew from the PDP primaries and said he doesn't want his time. Like Tony said, after every 4 years, once we conclude an election, you begin to see springs of promises, analysis that we got it right, it's going to be better. But whenever we have primary elections like we had in Anambra, there will be a total reflection that we have not started, and as if we are going nowhere. If the primaries could experience this kind of rancor, how can the products of this rancor be a good or be good facilitators of good governance? It's just a question. And talking about the kicks from Chris Ngige, we can understand. I don't think the Obas and the Ngige have reconciled in politics after that 2002, 2003 experience where the Chris Oba and the Andy Obas of this world made sure that Chris Ngige didn't breathe until the victory was relocated back to ABGA, where P2B became the governor. So let's see how it goes. For now, the National Working Committee is still in dilemma of what to do with the part, because they have not made a clear statement. Only that of PDP, Ozigbo, Valentine Ozigbo, other candidates like Uche Hunife have congratulated him, even though we still have other people kicking. P2B also spoke and told them that this is just the beginning and they should come together. So we are watching.
All right, because of our time, this is where we're going to leave it there. It's still a developing stories, and of course, we still expect more reaction coming from Anambra State in the build-up to the election that is just about 6 months away from, not up to 6 months, about 5
November
months.
6th.
November 6th away. from now. Tony, I think this is where we're going to be wrapping up on today's edition of newspaper review, speak out as a whole. And Bere, I think we'll do justice
to beg the lovers of Cristiano Ronaldo to take it easy, because yesterday a more coordinated Belgian team that presented Romelu Lukaku, Eden Hazard, Torgan Hazard, Kevin De Bruyne, and all that, knocked them off 1-0 and made sure they didn't get to the round of 16. And it was also congratulations flying to the way of Czech Republic, who caught the ticket of so many bettors as they knocked off Netherlands, who had a better interest of bookmakers. But that's pause for you. And today, remember that when the root of a tree begins to decay, it will spread the mess into the branches. Consider your actions, consider the effect. Tony?
Well, we keep tap on what is happening in Anambra, and we'll give you posted. We'll take the posted. You have a lovely day.
All right. From Chris Barsi, we wish you a very, very beautiful and successful day ahead. Bye for now.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Let's go. This is your radio, your station.
GGR, Good Governance Radio.